CEO of High People, and he's here to talk about digital inclusion and also digital innovation. As COVID-19 actually pushes people into isolation, many of us smart people came up with technological advancements of how to work remotely, or reach out to your loved ones remotely. If you want to get some kind of medicine, how can you get that medicine at home without actually making that very perilous journey from the confines of your home up to that hospital? You understand? How can you actually work from the confines of your home and also deliver to your boss in that regard before actually getting infected with COVID-19? How do I get to my phone, send my mother in the village some kind of money? We're talking about technological advancements that came through the COVID-19 pandemic to help people continue with their lives. Also, we will talk about digital inclusion, things to do with mobile money, the people in the rural areas, their ability to be able to get onto that phone and, make transactions and all that. We want to talk about that and a lot more with Mr. Innocent Kawoya, the CEO of High People. Very good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, my brother.
Indeed.
Sure.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. I'm sure this morning is made of God.
Indeed.
I got a new name now.
Indeed.
Called Made of God.
Of course, you also do know Innocent Kawoya. He was running at some point for the mayorship.
Yeah.
Is that still on the table in 2026?
Of course.
Indeed.
We were cheated and we're coming back.
Yes, Okago is watching.
Yeah.
He won't take those accusations lightly.
No, I'm not accusing him.
Indeed.
There is someone greater. There was controls, there were regulations.
Indeed.
Of course, the cheating was not just about the ballot. Maybe failure to understand the digitizing Kampala agenda that everyone has now adopted.
And you feel like by 2026, this is going to have taken root in people's minds?
Yeah, of course. I'm sure if our elder, the current Lord Mayor,
yeah,
if he's using a smartphone, he's using our agenda, the digitizing Kampala agenda.
Of course, as COVID-19 pushed people into the corner of isolation, technological advancements came up, fintechs came up, digital inclusion was a major conversation. But guess what? Government still throws an internet tax. You understand, 12% tax on data, killing those small SMEs that wouldn't have worked physically to make money, but would have made money online, killing them. But give us a status quo of how we are doing as far as digital innovations are concerned, then we get into the conversation on digital inclusion.
Well, first of all, I thank NTV for always giving us this opportunity.
Indeed.
I'm glad I'm having discussion as the end of the year note for us.
We are always thinking about you, the SMEs, and the people within the fintech space.
I know it's a beautiful gesture for us.
Indeed.
I'll start by delivering our greetings from our partners, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Level 1 Project Initiative.
They've done the most.
Yeah, that are believing in making sure we also empower our own, create our own ecosystems, create our own knowledge base, and make sure everyone gets to understand. 2021 will mark almost a full year of having one social media, media platform blocked.
Indeed.
Facebook, I'm sure if ministers are using it, they're also using it illegally.
VPN.
Just like any other person. Though I'm not sure if my dad would be using VPN because he wouldn't have that time. But it's challenging.
Indeed. So you're telling us if you would have been able to buy a piece of clothing on Facebook, you have been unable because of this ban.
Exactly.
If you were able to buy maybe a car on Facebook, you've been unable to do the same.
Of course, a number of people and opportunities have been cut off. For the little we've been able to observe, by around 2020, we had more than 8 million users on Facebook in Uganda alone. And these had created e-shops, e-services, and all kinds of opportunities. Some are selling, some are buying, some are exchanging information and knowledge. Of course, there are those that are sharing wrong information that we help manage every other time. But many of these have been cut off. But even to make matters worse, internet costs have become higher. I mean, the GB that was last year is not the GB that is, because by a little of description, a GB is 1,024 something bytes, I mean kilobytes. So anything less than, I mean megabytes, anything less than that is not a gigabyte. And for the little assessment we've done with all the ISPs we have here in Uganda, very few actually offer a GB for their user.
They just give it to you on paper.
They give it to you on paper. And
it is a GB.
Yeah, the uplink and the downlink don't give you a combination of the two. They
tell it for 3 days, but in 8 hours.
Exactly. But then the UN many years ago stated that internet is supposed to be a human right for all of us.
Indeed.
We are supposed to have internet, and COVID made it even bad for us that we had to understand the hard way. The things that we have been advocating for as High People and our partners for very many years, telling people get to use digital services, internet-connected devices and platforms, now turned into a reality of things that people have to learn on internet, people have to get healthcare services on internet, people have to do commerce on internet, people have to do religious practice on internet, families have to meet each other on internet and all that kind of stuff. And see what we have. The rails have not been open enough. The rails are not affordable enough. I was recently at the border post, one of the border posts, and the moment you drive about 350 kilometers away from the city center, internet experience becomes really, really bad. And I've also been having an ongoing discussion through the 40 Days for the Fintechs initiative and the Women in Fintech Hackathon. And we've been discussing with different stakeholders that we believe have capacity to serve and solve most of the niche problems. Because technologically, the thought is that, yes, we can have the bigger players, the regulators, but we also need to have the small players
who are in the rural areas.
Who are in each area and understand how to customarily manage problems and challenges of each community. Because as we innovate, for example, things like mobile money and GSM services, the telecom services, language barrier still remains a thing for very many of us. You cannot expect that every Ugandan knows English, so you have a menu of mobile money in English. So who is innovating for someone who doesn't speak English?
Who is innovating in Luganda?
Exactly.
And how has the government made it easy for this person to innovate in Luganda?
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, keeping it in mind that we have a 12% tax on that. So how will someone come out, pay all this money to come up with a technological advancement that is going to, you know, make someone's life very much easier? Talk about the low internet penetration within the rural areas, how it's dampening the resolve of this, you know, digital revolution from actually taking root in Uganda.
Thank you. I was going to something close to that, and speaking in matters of digital innovation. You know, many times as we innovate, we forget about some facts. Or as government comes out with policies and regulations, creating sandboxes and all that, there are bits of information that we skip. We get to, and I will fail to understand that when I am innovating, when I'm leading people. When I'm innovating for people.
Someone.
And for anything to ever happen, one time I had Jeff Bezos speaking about innovation and disruption. And his point of view is, if disruption cannot solve problems, then it's not disruption in any kind of way. Bill Gates adds to the same conversation and says that as long as they have innovated any technology that didn't solve any community problem, they didn't disrupt. Now look at our ecosystem on a very local basis and on local consumption basis. We have very many entrepreneurial players, very many innovative youth and women that want to innovate, especially for people that want to use digital services. And on one side, these are all able to do things in a different way. But the ecosystem should have consumers, it should have regulators, it should have innovators, it should have technology providers and all that. And then one that is supposed to be leading this conversation, the convener, and that is government, is really a bit slow at making sure that they play their role in making sure that they create an enabling environment for everyone that is. Recently, you know, policy and regulation is a good thing. Recently, a National Payment Systems Act was initiated, and about 11 fintechs have been regulated. But these are the giants and the big fish in the space, the likes of Pegasus, Uganda, and all the others.
But we need all the other small businesses on board.
But then we have hundreds of them that have come in the space, and they're innovating especially to solve our day-to-day problems. And the thought is that how do we actually include every one of them? Always at High People, we always have this thought of saying, we run High People Include Everyone program. And the thought is that everyone should be given a chance to participate in decision, in innovation, and disruption for the same reason. Recently, at the 8th Digital and Financial Inclusion Summit and the Digital Impact House Africa, we hosted a panel discussion of market women leaders. And I can tell you, they made a hit. Why? Because no one has given them this kind of platform to actually let them come, sit in the same place like any CEO of a big corporate, like any minister, and then discuss their issues in their way. Let us understand. And then you'll notice that all the challenges they have are partly because government is not yet doing exactly what they should do for them. And then for us, the players, and especially the startups and the small players, there is limitedness of resource to make sure actually these innovations can be implemented at scale to help everyone have a solution for each other. Yeah.
And of course, you did come up with a campaign to better solve this problem, how to actually get the big players and the small players together, the interoperable networks. Tell me about that. How does it operate?
Well, interoperability, from a UN perspective, they all speak about interoperability for GSM. Connectivity of devices. I mean, mobile connectivity, GSM achieved the first interoperability status, allowing that every mobile phone can call anywhere.
I see.
Without having to ask which number you calling, which country are you calling. So that there's much that has been achieved. The next bit is in identification. National identification. There are platforms like MOSIP that have created a free framework for national national identification frameworks. And the UN says, and World Bank together as well, they say there should be an ecosystem that allows for people to have identity information or unique identifiers that allow them to be known as who they are. Romeo should be known as who he is wherever they are. If my unique identifier is a NIN or a phone number, wherever he should go anywhere in the world, whichever government department, whichever company, I should be identified that way. And that helps in making sure we create a secure ecosystem. Then from a financial point of view, the Level 1 project, the Level 1 project initiative, through the framework it created, and then through a blueprint like Moja Loop, they speak to making sure that we create a financial ecosystem that allows players such as banks, MFIs, SACCOs, MNOs, that is the mobile network operators, people who operate mobile wallets, fintechs, donors, and governments to create an ecosystem that allows peer-to-peer, person-to-person payments, business to person, government to person, and all that seamlessly without having, I mean, I don't need to ask for Romeo what your phone number is. I don't need to ask for Arthur that, oh, boss, what's your phone number? I just need to tell him, oh, where do you want me to pay your money? Am I paying to your SACCO wallet? Am I paying to your microfinance account? Am I paying to your traditional bank account? Or am I paying to your mobile money wallet? And in the end, if all that is created and we create an interoperable ecosystem, then it means we play a bigger role in making sure we include so many other people financially. And it is an important rail. We are still struggling as a world to include more than 1.7 billion people onto formal digital rails. And in Africa, we've had a shortcut in the last 20 years. We've had
it's like you're talking about the whole African continent. The shortfall is within the African continent.
Exactly.
Because I was looking at the numbers. 5.1 billion people are connected to the internet. We have 7.9 billion people in the world, so meaning the 2.4 billion people within Africa are the ones who are actually being left behind of the grid.
Well, it is half of us. The challenge is that majority of those that are excluded are women. Some of the factors are women in rural areas. There are men like us who don't yet believe women should have their phones. They believe they are going to cheat having phones and all that kind of stuff. There's still a lot of issues relating with norms, customs, and traditions. But we will get there.
Even besides that, internet is not so widespread within the rural areas. And then we are talking about majority of our women within the rural settings being in agriculture. So how best can she even reach out to the customers in Kampala from Chazanga all the way to find out what kind of merchandise they need? So digital inclusion, how best are we involving the women in the rural areas? Is that a challenge?
Well, the digital inclusion aspect has always been for me and from the people at High People, my team, is that, well, we have to be optimistic about having a full connectivity, especially for internet. Government has to help in offering patronage and creating public-private partnerships with players, the mobile network operators, the ISPs, donor agencies, to create satellite connectivity that is cheaper, to create national cyber backbones and fiber backbones that allow for easier connectivity.
So ideally you're saying this is what government should be doing, but this is what they're doing at the moment. If government sees 10 startups, 20, 50 startups, they're not going to look at how to boost the productivity of these startups. They're going to say, oh, this is a tax cow. How do we tax these startups? How do we make money from these startups? To them, when they see something that is burgeoning, they don't see how do we help them, become better? How do we help them become from, increase from 100 to 200 startups? But how do we suck tax from these people? Talk to me about that. The fact that government is not actually offering a conducive environment through which these startups could operate, but rather putting in place policies, 12% tax on data, and also laws that suffocate the same startups.
Well, I think it's actually two-way, Romeo. Government is supposed to be our leader and an overseer of anything that happens in the ecosystem.
Indeed.
But also there is a contribution of the big players who want to lock out us, the small players.
So you mean they lobby the government to come up with all these taxes?
I'm sure sometimes directly or indirectly they'll lobby who they think has capacity to make decision. And sometimes we are left out.
And that can happen. There's a possibility of that happening because we did have the COP26, the climate summit. Guess what the oil companies did? They sent over 100 lobbyists to this COP26 summit. It was about climate change, how we can clamp down on these oil companies. So the oil companies decided to send lobbyists so that whatever policy comes out of COP26 isn't actually going to suffocate the oil companies. And I get what you're trying to mean right here.
Well,
come up with taxes that will suffocate the small businesses, the big players continue working.
Well, it's unfortunate because someone will tell you that multinationals, global companies like Microsoft, will create solutions like Azure, and they are saying that this is for SMEs to have easier, secure hosting because we believe you should exist in the ecosystem. Then our big players locally in Africa want to create closed-loop platforms that only are usable by them. I mean, we've been advocating for banks, for all telecoms to create open APIs that allow, for example, fintechs and other innovators to easily integrate with them, especially with the financial wallets. And it's like asking for a man to give birth to a baby. I mean,
highly impossible.
Even for interoperability today, especially with mobile money. The big players, the two big players, are still very expensive. That if I have to send money from MTN now to Airtel, even 10,000 shillings alone costs me more than 17%. And I'm always wondering, okay, what is the idea behind me having to sit with Romeo in the same place, and he has to send me 10,000 shillings, and it costs him 2,000 shillings? How and that could be? I mean, you are trying to show every single person that fiat is going to remain greater than this digital currency that we are using, because you're thinking, okay, if I allow more of these transactions in my ecosystem, maybe more users from the other network will actually leverage this. And I mean, that thought can only be controlled by input of the government. The government has to directly come in and tell these players that, wait a minute, there should be standards. No one should do a charge more than 1% for this kind of transaction.
Because it excludes more people from actually doing these transactions.
It excludes more people. It also takes away so money into a regulated ecosystem.
Because you're trying to get people off the physicality of using money physically. Now you are making it harder for them to transact online.
Exactly.
You know, so many people can't even part with 1,000 or 2,000. If they're sending, let's say, 50,000 shillings, they want to send 50. If you tell them you have to add on some 2,000, they'll be like, let me take this money physically.
You can imagine.
COVID-19 will be spread.
Yeah, recently I wanted to buy fuel, and I had some little man on my mobile wallet. So I was at some station, and this gentleman told me, "Oh, me the taxi is mobile money," and sorry, I had to say it in his own tone. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I have been buying fuel here for the last about 6 years. Every single day. And now because I have to pay with mobile money, and you're telling me, oh, okay. So, I mean, of course, we're doing a lot in making sure that we do a lot of advocacy and education for the players to understand. But, you know, when we do advocacy as players in fintech, in financial inclusion, and government comes in and endorses our advocacy, it becomes easier to have adoption. I mean, you remember the time when one of the big telcos had issues in getting its new license, you remember? And they were getting maybe months and months and all that. I mean, government was in full control of the ecosystem, and they had capacity to do so many things in the same space, get them to understand how things should be done, because they know, but they're working in so many ways to their benefit. And that doesn't help us as a country.
Indeed.
But then recently there's a weekly show that I do on one of the radios in Kampala, teaching and advising about digital innovation. So the Honorable Minister of ICT listened through and then thought she could adapt bits of the things we're talking about, especially about cutting internet costs. And she promised that before this year ends, they'll have to speak with the ISPs and partner with them, support them wherever they think they can, so that internet costs can go down. But that's not all. I mean, for the person that is in the village that cannot access internet, the first question is, how do we include them?
Yeah.
Many of the times, we run to a discussion of saying that digital inclusion is about mobile.
Yes.
Yes, we are living in Uganda and in Africa, which we believe and consider as high people, that it is either mobile only or a mobile first economy. But then more to that, we can be able to do many other things. By someone being able to access a mobile signal, which more than 97% of Uganda's coverage has access to a mobile signal, means they are digitally connected. By someone being able to watch NTV...
It's around 60%.
No, it's not. The mobile
internet penetration was around... Okay, you were talking
mobile
about
signal,
the not the number of people who own phones.
Yeah, being able to access, as in when I go to Nakapiripiriti, to Koboko, can I be able to call from there?
There is a 40% internet penetration, 60% own phones, and then the signal is at that number.
And yeah, the signal is that high. So meaning almost in every single place around Uganda, we can access connectivity.
I see.
So if we can access that, who else plays in the digital ecosystem?
Indeed.
We went through digital migration for TVs and radios and all that.
Yes.
And that is digitization. Can we also play a role in disseminating information and making sure people understand? Can the other players in the digital spectrum also play their role, so that by the time someone has an handset that can allow them to communicate peer-to-peer, they actually have knowledge on how to use it and what opportunity there is in the same place.
How has the COVID-19 pandemic helped us achieve better digital inclusion, Innocent Kawoyo?
Well, COVID-19, save for the many lives we've lost, may their souls rest in peace. It has accelerated knowledge and understanding, because many things have never happened like they are. I mean, there's never been a single time when a parent has no choice but to have their child study using their tab, for those who can afford, or their mobile device.
And do you know what many are thinking?
Yeah.
Well, many are thinking schools are going to be reopening. I don't need this tab anymore.
Yeah.
We have something else that is coming. Many don't think the economy is being fully reopened in January. I don't need to work remotely. They have something else that is coming. Technological advancements are being clamored for, even as we move forward with this COVID.
Well, I'll tell you, Romeo, that from my point of view,
this is the new normal.
Yeah, my daughters for the next 2 or 3 years are going to study from home.
Indeed.
Yeah, I'm going to look for money to buy the tabs and all that, and I'm going to make sure they don't move.
You're not taking them back to a school setting?
No, because I can be able to have a little bit of flexibility, and I want to understand that actually that's the new normal. I mean, with the challenges of infrastructure that we have, with the growing numbers of cars every single day, even the traffic is becoming high. Cost for transportation is going to even become high. I mean, if you can have an alternative to education, if you have an alternative to healthcare, and you can do digital. I mean, telemedicine was a discussion for so many years.
But it's a reality now.
Yeah, I remember in 2009, we joined a competition of ITU and developed a solution called My Doctor. And actually, we won a simple grant. And then it was telemedicine for us then, and no one cared, you know. And we are in 2021, and guess what is happening? If you don't believe that you actually need to digitize every single bit of your thought, you are going to be left out. Your children will not go to school for 3 years for reasons that we will never know, because we don't know what is going to happen after Omicron. You will not be able to access some services for those who have not been vaccinated. I mean, there's going to be a lot of things, and the only safe space for everyone is making sure you get on the digital rails, leverage them, learn as much as you can. Those who want to change professions, there is opportunity for you. There is a universe of the internet. There is free educational material. I remember there was a time when COVID was so much, and I decided to do a few specializations. Within 2 months, I had done like 20 of them, and they were free of charge.
Indeed.
And I mean, anyone else can be able to get very good universities, very good information, and a lot of foundational material out there.
And of course, that is one of the innovations out there, Innocent Kawe. You can actually open up or even start in a university minus having a physical building.
Exactly.
You only have to go online.
Exactly.
Start up a company, start up a university, start up a school online. Students will be learning online. You don't need any physical building in that regard. So those are some of the innovations that have come up.
Exactly.
So when some of these smart people, the innovators, the startups, when they come to you, what are some of the challenges they actually talk to you about?
Well,
besides COVID-19 and of course issues to do with funding.
Well, of course, funding. We've talked about funding a lot.
Indeed.
It's got to be coming soon.
Yeah.
Of course, one of the most pressing challenges is regulation. And not because they don't want to be regulated, because we all want to operate in a safe and secure ecosystem that includes and benefits everyone. But we also need these players, especially the fintechs, want to be understood. They want to be heard. They want to be part of the discussion of regulation, at whatever level it should be.
So you're saying when government is coming up with these policies, laws, these regulations, they need to involve you, the people in the digital space?
Yes, they need to involve us, not by sending us reports and minutes for
Top
meetings.
to bottom.
Yeah? No. As in, send me minutes for, we had this meeting, and this is what we thought, and then we... No. We are the ones that consume these services.
The experts should be in the room.
We should be in the room. We are the ones that are innovating. We've been doing this for so many years for Uganda, for this continent. So why don't you include us on those discussions? And I mean, that is not a voice of me alone. It's a voice of hundreds of players in the fintech space. And they're saying, hey, government, hey, our regulators, BOU, UCC, and everyone, NITA and everyone, please, when you are discussing matters, innovation, disruption, can we be part of those discussions? Otherwise, many times, even government is going to end up creating very huge digital debts. Why? Government is also going to be spending on technology. So what if you spend on technology we don't need? As the players that are supposed to be disseminating the same. What if you invest in human resource that you don't need, and yet you could be able to provide free service? I mean, we can be able to provide, at some level, free consultancy to government and show them, okay, we think this should be done. This should be done. And we also have pointers to free information or material. I mean, like when I talk about level 1 project, there has been a wealth of knowledge that has been created free of charge. And I mean, government should use it and learn from it, and then it's been researched. It's been done in more than 90 countries. You can be able to learn and know use cases in India, in Philippines, in wherever you want to know. When we have solutions like Mojalu, that is an open source platform, can government be able to use it to create an instant and inclusive payment system that includes all players, all DFSPs in the country? I mean, those are thoughts we should be having, and believe this is the right time for us to do that.
And of course, Innocent Kawe, we are ushering in the new year as of Saturday this very week. And of course, our individual citizens who are watching this show are wondering, what should we look forward to in the new year 2022 as far as digital space is concerned, of course?
Well, thank you, Romeo, and thank you, NTV, for always hosting me, and hi people and our partners are always glad. Well, when we came with the agenda of digitizing Kampala in the mayorship race, actually one of the most important reasons why I had to come for mayorship was to upgrade on our advocacy and show our people that you need to digitize because it becomes a better voice for all of us. But for everyone, education, religion, healthcare, government, well, you have no option, but everything is going to be digitized. There is a lot of opportunity for everyone, the small players. You want to run a shop, a stall somewhere. There's a lot of education that you're going to get for free, and no one else is going to give it to you but internet. So going forward, let's think digital first. As long as we think digital first, my young brother Nicholas Kalonji always calls himself digital first. And it's been very many years, and I didn't know why he actually called himself digital first. Now I know that, okay, the time has come for us to leverage digitization and make it better, make it a better thing for all of us.
Well, and of course, Innocent Kawe, out of the 2.3, 2.4 billion Africans around the globe, of course, we do know that 1.7 billion are not connected to the internet grid. Talk to the leaders of these jurisdictions and explain to them why it is imperative to have their citizens connected to the grid. We are talking to the whole of Africa. In a nutshell, in a minute?
Well, for our leaders, I would like to relate this voice to the UN that says that connectivity and internet is a human right.
Indeed.
And it's your role to make sure we all get connected. It is your role. Do your part. We will use it. You'll make profit. You build our economies and make them better. And you create better livelihoods for all of us in the continent and the world. May God bless everyone. And we wish everyone a great 2022. We hope COVID goes for good. Keep safe, social distance, and wear your mask. It's important for you and your family.
And of course, that submission couldn't have been more spot on. Innocent Kawaii, the CEO of High People, he was also running in the mayoral race. He tells me 2026 is still running in the politics of this country. Thank you very much for coming through.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to many more encounters. All right. Away from Innocent Kawaii, the CEO of High People, we also do have Joseph Ochieno, the other president of the Uganda People's Congress. We also do have Peter Walubidi and Mr. that is Jimmy